My pregnant colleague told me to get her a drink. However, she had severe stomach ache after the drink and suffered a miscarriage. In the hospital, she was crying about how I harmed her. Her family members beat me up badly, even extorted $150,000 in compensation from me. I made a police report and was ready to take legal action against them. However, his mother-in-law pushed me to the middle of the road and I was crushed to death by being run over by a truck. My body trembled badly when I opened my eyes again. I realized I was still in one piece, limbs intact and all. I was also not feeling any pain of my bones being crushed. I realized that I had reincarnated. At that moment, my colleague Cecilia Hunt came to me. "Jessica, let's go get a drink together. Gosh, it's so hot today." Cecilia was 5 months pregnant and was particularly afraid of heat. She had to buy a cold drink almost every day. I applied for a credit card last week. The card came with some discounts on getting a drink, so my colleagues had been coming to me to buy drinks for them. I was a kind-hearted person. However, out of expectation, Cecilia suffered a stomachache after her drink. We were so scared that we rushed her to the hospital immediately. Her family came to me later, claiming that it was all my fault that they lost their grandchild and demanded a compensation of $150,000 from me. Thinking of the tragic death in my past life, I immediately grabbed my phone and refused Cecilia's invitation. "I don't want a drink. I'm on a diet. I'm not taking any drinks and desserts." Cecilia, however, persisted. "Just buy it for me using your credit card then." "No, I won't. I don't want to be held responsible if anything happens later." I refused to do so. Cecilia was stunned. "Jessica, why are you so stingy?" "It's just a drink. What can go wrong?" Stacy Ford, who sat at the opposite workstation, said sarcastically, "That's right, Jessica. I think you're just being stingy. We're all colleagues." "What's wrong with just a little help?" "Since we're all colleagues and you are so generous, why don't you get for her?" "Come on, I saw you just bought some coupons for the drink earlier," I retorted. Stacy was visibly shocked at my response. Cecilia immediately turned and looked at her. "Stacy, let's place an order together." Stacy hesitated. I sneered at her. "What's wrong? You're not willing to help now? Why are you so stingy when we're all colleagues?" "I ran out of coupons." Stacy reacted immediately and shook her phone. "Sorry, all the coupons are used up." "You'll have to find someone else, Cecilia." Displeased, Cecilia snorted and returned to her workstation. After a while, a delivery person came and sent her a drink. It seemed she could order her drink on her own. I was a little curious. In my past life, Cecilia suffered a stomachache and claimed to have signs of miscarriage. What had actually happened? I shook my head. When we got off work, Cecilia pulled me aside. "Jessica, let's go together." "I'll ride with you." "No, my tiny electric scooter can't carry anyone." "Why are you so stingy? Do you know how fast your electric scooter can go during this rush hour?" "I'm really not a generous person, so no rides from me." With that, I shook her hand off and rushed toward my electric scooter, riding away. Cecilia was left stomping her feet in anger. I wondered why Cecilia kept coming up to me. The next morning, Cecilia sent me a text. "Jessica, bring me breakfast. The pancakes near your house are especially delicious." No way. She was so incredibly demanding. I would not let her have any opportunity to take advantage of me again in this life. "Can't, I'm busy." Cecilia's phone call came immediately, but I did not answer it. When I got to the office, the fuming Cecilia immediately berated me. "I'm hungry, Jessica." "Where are my pancakes?" I sneered. "I don't owe you any favors, so stop ordering me around. Are you pregnant with my child?" My loud, snappy response stunned her. A moment later, her eyes reddened. "Jessica, why do you say that?" "I would have bought it myself if you had told me you weren't getting my breakfast." "I have nothing to eat now. How will I get through the morning?" My colleagues all looked at me when they heard that. "Now you're just going too far, Jessica," said Stacy. "How can you bully a pregnant woman?" I snorted and sent a screenshot of my chat thread with Cecilia to the group, tagging Cecilia. "I already told you that I wasn't getting you breakfast. Why do you insist on blaming me?" Cecilia paled at this. Our colleagues, on the other hand, snickered silently after seeing the screenshot. "Someone privately texted me, 'You're very brave, Jessica.'" I replied, "I have nothing to be afraid of. I'm not her husband, and I don't need to spoil her." "You're right. I'm taking notes from you on this. Ever since she got pregnant, she's been acting like a queen. She can do that at home, but not in the office." I smiled. It seemed that everyone shared the same experience. I had never thought of getting angry at Cecilia. However, I died really miserably in my past life, and I refused to suffer again. Cecilia panicked. Jessica, delete that now. I spread my hands. Too bad, can't delete now, it's too late. Cecilia glared at me fiercely before she turned and headed to the supervisor's office. A few minutes later, Trevor Scott, the supervisor, asked me to go to his office. When I arrived, Cecilia had just come out of his office with a proud look. Just you wait, Jessica. Well, why should I be afraid of you? I knocked on the door and entered. Trevor looked at me and said, Jessica, it's a fate that we can all work together. What you did today is too much. Too much? Mr. Scott, forgive me for being blunt, but I don't quite understand what you mean. Why don't you set an example for me? I can learn from you too. Trevor's expression immediately soured. Jessica! Yes, Mr. Scott, I really don't understand. What do you mean I went too far? What did I do wrong? Tell me, and I will change. I looked at Trevor sincerely. Trevor was speechless. After all, getting breakfast for a colleague was not a work matter, and personal matters should not be discussed excessively at work. Trevor knew that, so he coughed lightly and said, Let's not talk about this for now. I will let you handle the Weston account. Hand over the company's social media account you're handing to Cecilia to manage. That shocked me. You mean the social media account I built up myself from scratch? Mr. Scott, does Mr. Wesley know about this arrangement? Jessica, the account belongs to the company. You just need to obey my arrangement. I finally understood that this was the punishment for my disobedience. Trevor looked at me with a smug smile on his face. All right, you can leave now. I heard him loud and clear, so I went out right away. I bumped into Cecilia, who was touching up her makeup with a mirror. She said, Some people just never know where they stand and think they're untouchable. She knocked on the table to signal me, Hurry up, or you'll be responsible if the work is delayed. Don't worry, I wish you all the best. I handed her the account and password, and then asked her to sign for a handover confirmation. From that day onward, the company's social media account had nothing to do with me. I would not be responsible for anything that would happen next. On top of that, I especially submitted a copy of the handover confirmation form to the Human Resources Department and kept a copy for myself. I also tagged Trevor in the chat group. Mr. Scott, as you've instructed, I've completed the handover of my tasks with Cecilia. Trevor replied, Good. I took a screenshot of it immediately and saved it. One must always leave a trace of things they did. I inwardly sneered, looking at Cecilia's smug face across the room. I did not believe that someone like Cecilia would be able to make the company's social media account more popular without me. After all, I had stayed up for countless nights to set up the account and the continuous material selection for postings. As for Cecilia's work, I was not too confident, and there would not be any problem at all for me to take over. Stacy looked over at that moment and said, Jessica, you are managing another account? How capable? Cecilia smiled and added, You're a young lady and are not pregnant. You've got a lot to learn. Mr. Wilson from Weston is a strict person. I smiled as I watched them laughing at me. I said, You're right. Cecilia is pregnant and will take maternity leave. Her position will be vacant when that happens. I wonder who will take over her position. Stacy choked when she heard that. Stacy was on a contract basis from an outsourcing company, and she had been trying to secure a permanent position in the company. When Cecilia went on maternity leave, Stacy would have a chance to take over her position. What I said changed Cecilia's and Stacy's expressions. Cecilia snorted and headed out with her phone. Stacy seemed to be in deep thought. I shrugged and headed to the washroom. Not long after I entered the washroom, I heard footsteps entering before hearing Cecilia's voice. I told you, she isn't fooled at all. What do you want me to do? If you don't have money, just go borrow it. That stupid girl is a careful one, always so cautious about me. She's not getting duped at all? Stupid girl? Was Cecilia talking about me? I quickly took out my phone as I heard her say softly in the next cubicle, I know, I'll find another chance later. That Stacy looked dumb enough, so we'll target her. My child will definitely be worth more than $150,000. My heart sank when I heard that. No wonder she had to pester me in her past life. She even extorted me for $150,000 in compensation. It was all for money. What a cruel woman. She would not hesitate to hurt her own child for money. I heard Cecilia put away her cell phone and left. I waited for another 10 minutes before I left the washroom. I took a detour to the sales department to collect some data before returning to my workstation. When I got back, a sweet smell lingered in the office. I noted several fruit platter boxes in the bin. "Oh, you're back," said Stacy sarcastically. "We finished eating and forgot to leave some for you. I heard that the fruit platter is usually cut from rotten fruit. Be careful not to eat them, or you will get an upset stomach," I reminded Stacy. Stacy merely sneered. "I bought imported fruit, and they're very expensive." "How could there be rotten ones?" No one in the office said a word. Cecilia went to the washroom at that moment. She came out a while later, crying, "Ah, help! What should I do? I'm bleeding!" She cried and sat on the ground, clutching her stomach. Everyone panicked and called an ambulance immediately. Stacy anxiously held Cecilia tightly. "Help me, go to the hospital with me," I urged. "Go with her. Aren't you two besties?" Stacy did not think twice about that. She got in the ambulance together once it arrived. I smiled as I watched them leave. I asked for the rest of the day off immediately and followed them secretly. Once they arrived at the hospital, Cecilia's family had arrived too. When the family learned that Cecilia had a miscarriage after eating the fruits Stacy had bought, Stacy's mother-in-law, Lavra Newman, turned and charged towards Stacy, slapping her tightly. "You wretch! What did you do? My precious grandson is gone. You have to compensate me for this loss." Stacy, stunned by her slap, clutched her cheek and cried, I didn't. It wasn't me." "Who else then?" "Cecilia said it was you who bought the fruit platter. It was you." I stood in the crowd and excitedly watched the drama unfolding. The skinny old lady ignored what Stacy said. She grabbed her hair and slapped her more than a dozen times, which caused Stacy's face to swell and redden. She screamed and fell to the ground. At that moment, Stacy spotted me in the crowd. Stacy pointed at me and screamed, "It's her! She did it! Don't let her run away!" Cecilia's family all looked over instantly and surrounded me. "So it's you, little rat!" The old lady slapped me without a reason. I lay on the ground and cried, "Murder!" The old woman sneaked out of the mental hospital and is killing people.